Okay, students, as promised, I am going to go through 4 specific examples step by step, and this will show you how to solve homework 1, the handwritten homework, problem number 3 for microecon, problem 5 for macroecon. And again, this is step by step using the stuff we learned in the video about the shifters for supply and demand. So I'm going to share my screen here. And I'm going to first of all go to the problem sets. Now this is the O1 version, the O2 version is problem 4, but the directions are the same. It says consider the markets below, summarize, which means provide a bunch of details for, and show on a supply and demand curve diagram, a graph in other words, what happens all else being equal if the mentioned events occurred. It's one event per market. Keep it simple, y'all. Be sure to indicate which curve changes. Is it supply or demand? How does it change? Does it shift left or right? Why it changes, meaning which non-price determinant for supply or demand is moving it, and what is the impact on equilibrium pricing quantity? Please remember, P star stands for equilibrium price, Q star stands for equilibrium quantity. P star could increase or decrease, Q star could increase or decrease. You could also say rise or drop. You could say it gets bigger, it gets smaller, but you get the general idea. Now remember, some of those shifters have subcategories, so you got to be specific, determinant and subcategory, and be careful. There are either substitutes in consumption or substitutes in production, but there are no substitute goods. That does not explain which side of the market is affected, so be mindful. We're going to work these first 4. You need to work all of them just to get a good handle on how this stuff works, but if you can follow the first 4, you can follow any of them. So what I've done over here, and again, I'm doing this using Word and Paint. You're going to do this by hand, meaning using a protractor or ruler and pens and pencils to do this. But I'm using the Word and the Paint and the other materials because it's easier for y'all to see and read. So the first market for here is the market for chicken wings. And so I need to talk about what we have up here. I'm going to insert a text box. This stuff that's in black means black pen or gray pencil. I recommend the use of gray pencil. You have a supply curve. Notice the endpoints are labeled with S's. You have a demand curve. Notice the endpoints, plural, both of them are labeled with D's. You must label all endpoints. You must locate the starting equilibrium price, which is P star, and equilibrium quantity, which is Q star, and notice it corresponds to the intersection of the 2 curves. You must have a vertical axis labeled with a $sign. You must have a horizontal axis labeled with a Q. You must have an origin labeled with a 0, and this is where we start from, but there's one more thing. I'm putting this box up here, and so I don't want there to be any outline here, and I'm going to put the name of the market, chicken wings. And let's be clear about what I'm talking about when I say chicken wings, y'all. I am talking about the actual chicken wings that are cooked, fried, etc., grilled, whatever you want to call it, served in a restaurant. That's what I'm talking about here. So every market needs to have a little header up top so we know which market this is about. And I tend to underline this here just because I know it's not part of the graph, it's just above it. Now it says you have to tell which curve is changing, how does it change, and you have to show this in the graph, and you have to also talk about the change in equilibrium price and quantity. So I'm going to insert some more shapes here. I'm going to do a text box here, and this text box is going to be for my summary information. All right. And I tend to like to do the text here. I'm a Times New Roman fan. I just tell everybody use whatever you're comfortable with. You're going to be writing this by hand anyway, so there is no font for your handwriting. And so we're going to start talking about this. Now, it says the cost of chicken feed is rising. Now, let's talk about chicken feed. That's like a mixture of grains at a poultry farm where they raise chickens for meat. That's what they actually feed the chickens. You don't feed the chickens, they have no meat on their bones. Obviously, the chickens are a resource that is used to make the chicken wings, and the feed is something you got to feed the chickens. So what we have here is a resource cost. We've already talked about the fact that resources are used by businesses to produce something. Businesses are producers. This is a supply curve. So we're going to write supply. And the thing is, it says that it's more expensive to feed the chickens. That tells me fewer chickens are raised to maturity, which means they're less meat. Less and left sounds the same. So we're going to say supply shifts to the left. Okay, we'll deal with the reason why in just a moment. I'm going to do a little bit of editing here. I do not like so many spaces here. I want there to be no spaces following here. So just give me a moment. This, folks, just be patient while I format stuff in the way it's not part of the problem here. Now, So what I'm going to need to do now here is I'm going to need to draw a new supply curve that is parallel to the old one, but to the left of it. And so I'm going to do this thing over here. And again, we want to make sure it's parallel. We don't do rotational shifts or supply or demand. We do parallel shifts. Okay, and again, I want this shape here to be a nice blue color here. But I also need to label it as well here. I need to put some S primes on there in just a moment. So again, just bear with me while I'm doing shapes here. And so I'm going to put like a nice blue S prime there. Y'all are saying I can't see it. Don't worry, I'll get that there. Just be patient, y'all. Here, come on. Rome wasn't made in a day, you know, that kind of thing. So S, excuse me, prime. I only want one prime. Why am I getting two primes? Is that Optimus Prime? But I'll bump. Okay, in all seriousness, though, okay, let me also do this so that there is no outline. Okay, no outline. And I'm going to copy that because I'm going to have one more of them. And I'll put it over here. And let's see, I need to make sure this thing is transparent. Well, shoot, I do not see how to make it transparent, so we'll just try to shrink it up so it fits in there just so. All right. Okay. Maybe I should do the next one in paint. What do y'all think, huh? Okay. All righty. Well, anyhow, there's S prime as best as I could do this under the circumstances. Now, okay. So we've got the new supply curve there. I'm going to insert a couple more shapes here. I'm going to do an arrow going to the left here because that's the direction that the curve is shifting. And folks, notice this thing is not, under any circumstances, shifting diagonal or vertical. Curves shift horizontally and only horizontally. So we've got the shifter arrow, though, showing the shift in the supply curve. And so this one over here, excuse me a second, y'all. Okay. It's showing the change in this, and again, I'm just locating the new equilibrium point. So just bear with me while I do this here. I got to get things oriented and so forth. This is a lot easier to do if I'm doing this by hand with my pen, by the way, just so you know, or on the board with a marker. But that's locating the new equilibrium price and quantity. Then we need to label those as well. And so let me go ahead and get a couple more text pieces here. And so over here, I have got, we'll call P prime. Okay. P prime is your new equilibrium price. You see, let me send it to the back. There we go. It didn't do as well as I would like it to, but okay. There's new equilibrium price located such as it was. Okay. And then over here, we're going to do the new equilibrium quantity. I'm not going to invent the wheel again here. I'm going to move this down there. And this should be a Q prime. And please forgive me, this is not the best job I could be doing here. But there we are, new equilibrium price and quantity. Ideally, I would like these to be like closer to here. It's just that I'm dealing with the limitations of Word and how Word handles graphics. So again, my apologies for the lack of smoothness here. We should have an arrow showing the change in the equilibrium price. Okay, showing it increasing here. And then another arrow showing the equilibrium quantity. And that one I'm going to move over here and make horizontal again, just so I've got this thing in place here. Usually once I get the first of these going here with the computer software, it goes a little bit more easily. I just want to make sure this stuff is readable. That's my main concern for everybody is I want this to be readable. And for some reason, this thing is being difficult, so I'll borrow that and move it over here. There we go. All right. So that is our first graph there. The graph is complete. Please notice again the color change that happens here. When you shift the supply curve to the left, the equilibrium price goes up. The equilibrium quantity is going to decrease here. So whenever we put P star increases or rises, Q star decreases. That much is obvious here. But the question is, what's the reason why? Well, as we said earlier, these chicken wings here are made from chicken. You have to feed the chicken in order to make the meat. That means that is an ingredient used to make the product. So that makes it this shifter, changes in the cost of necessary resources. And so this is the reason why the curve is shifting to the left. So which curve shifts? Supply. How does it shift? It shifts left. What's the reason why? Changes in resource costs is a good way to say it. Okay. And what's the effect on the market? P star increases and Q star decreases. And so here we have a fully worked sample of this. Here's a fully worked example for the problem. All right, so that is our first example. Okay, now we're gonna move on over here. We got our new example. Okay, and so again, we're gonna put a text box in up here. This is the market for chemical soap, and let's be clear, chemical soap is not some kind of organic, natural homeopathic soap. Chemical soap means basically soap that's made from like petrochemicals primarily. It is the type of stuff that can be maybe a little bit abrasive and harsh on the skin, but at the same time, you know what, it's also fairly inexpensive. And so it's kind of a mixed bag here about that. You got to take the good with the bad, I suppose. And so chemical soap. Okay, and what's going on with that? And let's make this a little bit wider. Chemical soap. Okay, all righty. Yeah, your professor's silly. All right, so there's our label for the market. And so we've got our supply, demand, and equilibrium. I'm not using any numbers for these graphs, by the way. Whenever we're working these graph problems, I want you to get a general sense of which curve is changing and how, what's the impact on the market. So we're just going to be dealing with positions, just positions, rather than dealing with numbers here. Now, it says here, marketing research. That's talking to people that buy. In other words, talking to consumers. It shows that consumers, big dead giveaway, like natural organic soap better. This is not the market for natural organic soap. This is the market for chemical soap. And this is the product people don't like as much. Now, people liking or not liking something, that is definitely a demand issue. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to put in a text box here. Okay, let's find that. Let's take care of that bit of business here. And so we're going to have all of our summary information over there. And again, please forgive me as I go through my formatting deal here. So outline, we want no outline. Okay. And then as far as the color, I like to use blue when it comes to that here. Now, if people don't like this as much as they like the organic soap, if they don't like the chemical soap as much, that tells me demand is going to shift here. But if they don't like this as much, it means people won't buy as much. They'll buy less of it. Less sounds like left here. So demand is shifting to the left. Now let's talk about the reasons why demand is shifting to the left for a second. What people like and don't like are what we call changes in consumers' tastes and preferences. We'll just go ahead and fill that in here. Changes in consumers' preferences will be a nice way to do it short. Okay, or tastes and preferences if you prefer. Now, if demand shifts left, it's going to move parallel to the left here. And so let's go ahead and put in our new line, and for the demand curve, it needs to be parallel to the old one. And so we'll deal with that, and we'll make that a nice royal blue. I like to use blue for the new demand curve here. And then we'll also insert another shape here. We'll insert an arrow. Okay, we're gonna make that arrow, oops, wrong direction here. We're gonna make the arrow shifting left, because after all, that is the way it is going. We'll make that our nice royal blue as well. We're going to put in the labels in just a second. I just want to finish the text box first because this is the faster part. If you take a look, the new equilibrium price is vertically lower than the old one. And so we know what's going to happen here is that P star is dropping. It decreases. You can write decreases, you can write drops. Either one works. Similarly, the new equilibrium quantity is to the left of the old one when we find that here. That's our new Q star. Q star means equilibrium in general. Q star decreases as well. So we've got all the summary information going on there. And so that's all well and good. Okay. But now we need to finish constructing our graph, because what's missing over here? We don't have D primes on the endpoint, so that needs to be taken care of. What else is missing? We don't have the new equilibrium point located either. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go back. I'm going to get us a couple more lines going here. Okay, new equilibrium price will be located there once we are done. Okay, we're going to keep this stuff royal blue here, Control C, and then we're going to do the Control V as well. I'm going to move this over here. We're going to make this vertical once I get it moved into position here. And everybody's being difficult today. That's okay. We'll get this thing taken care of. I really would prefer to do this as a dotted line here. I'm just trying to do this on the fly while I'm talking to y'all. And so the next thing we need to do is we need to get our labels in place here. And so, alrighty, let's go back over to insert here. I really wish they had an insert character. That would make me happy. But the thing is they don't, and so we will just deal. Okay. And so we're going to go with no outline. We're going to make sure that the text inside is blue. We're going to make this a little bit smaller so it's easier to contain P prime. Okay. And so P prime, we're going to move over to here. Okay. I'm going to copy this. But then I'm going to change that to a Q prime in just a second, because I just want to make sure that I got the correct item there. Okay, Q prime. And so the new equilibrium quantity is the left of the old one here. I'll put my new shifter arrows in place while I'm at it. Folks, these shifter arrows that are following the axes are to help y'all see the increase or decrease in the equilibrium price and quantity. That's what those are about. Those are to help you see the change. Come on. I'm trying to make this thing vertical and just does not want to be vertical. Yeah, I feel like there's an engineer somewhere here giggling in delight as I'm doing this, and that's fine. That's fine. Professor Lewis will deal with this. I've dealt with worse. Just a flesh wound, I say. Just a flesh wound. Okay, boom. There we go. So we got our nuclear impression quantity. Is there anything else I'm missing? Oh, yeah. The demand curve. We got to have a couple of D primes up there as well. So let's take care of those last couple of items here. And again, let's get this thing just so. Okay, let's make sure this is readable. Let's make this thing as small as we can without obscuring everything. Okay. Alrighty, so D prime. And this is the reason why Professor Lewis wants you to use a pen or a pencil. Okay, so there we are. Our new demand curve is to the left of the old one, and ooh, Professor Lewis pulled a big boo-boo here, didn't he? That price is decreasing. Oh, shame on you, shame on you. We'll fix that. That's the whole thing, though. Sometimes people make the mistakes here, like they put the arrow in the wrong direction. This is why we double check our work each time, every time. Okay, there we go. Now we have a fully labeled solution that basically matches what it says. Okay. All righty, let's move on then to the third market. It's number 3 for the macro. It's part C for the micro. Used cars. I actually talked about them in the previous video. Used cars are cars that are sold as is with no warranty. They're typically 5 years old or older. They typically have all kinds of physical flaws. They typically have a lot more risk to them failing on you. And so they're sold a lot cheaper. The thing is, when people's income levels drop, like they lost their job or they got a demotion or they had their schedule cut, it means they have less money to spend. And if your car suddenly dies and you don't live close to your job and it's not really a job you can ride a bike to, you're basically in a situation here, or take public transportation to for that matter. To keep your job and keep a roof over your head, you need transportation. And if you can't afford a new car, you're buying a used car. And so consumers' income levels, that tells me something, and that tells me this is one of those types of products that could be inferior, normal, or superior. Now, we talked about the fact that inferior goods are products that fill a basic need, in this case, transportation, but they do not, people don't find them desirable. And used cars are a perfect example of an inferior good. And so the thing is, when income levels drop, what we should know from this is that consumers are going to buy more inferior goods, products that fill the basic need but are not desirable to most consumers. And the reason why they will is they cannot afford the normal or the superior goods. And so demand is going to shift the inferior goods to the right. Demand is going to shift right. The reason why is consumers' income levels drop, and these are inferior goods. You have to be specific. If these were luxury cars, then the demand would shift to the left because those are superior goods. And so you have to make it clear. Consumers' income levels drop, by the way, is what I've already given y'all. And so you really don't need to put that because that's regurgitating what I said. If you see a change in consumers' income level, however, you have to be specific. You have to be specific. Which kind of income sensitive good is it? Is it a normal good? Is it a superior good? Is it an inferior good? Now, if demand shifts to the right, it's going to be over here. Notice the new equilibrium price when we put that demand curve in there. And I'm going to put the curve here without the labels first. So again, everybody, please have patience. Okay. If you notice what the new demand curve is going to be once we have our labels in place, the new equilibrium price is further up than the old one. Price is going to increase. The equilibrium quantity is further right. The equilibrium quantity is going to increase as well. So we'll say P star, I'm going to say rises or gets bigger, and Q star also rises, means gets bigger or increases as well. And so we've got our summary information all nicely put in there. Now, we're going to insert a couple of more of the lines. I'm going to try to do my best to make this go a little faster than it has the previous couple of times, because I know that you guys are being very patient with me, and I really appreciate that. But at the same time, you know something, we're trying to do the job here and get her done, as the saying goes. And so let's see here. Insert one more line. Okay. We're using these blue lines here to locate the brand new equilibrium price and quantity after they shift over. Okay, so that's in there. Okay, let's also get our shifter arrows in next here. Okay, the new demand curve is to the right of the old one. Okay, and then let's also insert another shifter arrow over here. The new equilibrium price is to the right of the old one. Okay, and let's insert one more new shifter arrow here. The new equilibrium, that's the quantity I was talking about, not the price. My apologies. New price is to the right of the old one. And the new equilibrium price is vertically higher than the old one. And this thing looks like I rotated a bit too much. I want to make sure this thing looks like it's parallel. So again, please forgive me there, folks. I'm just kind of making some small adjustments. So we're still not done. We have to put our labels in place. And so I'm going to do that now. And I'm going to, again, not reinvent the wheel. I'm just going to borrow from what we already have. So I'm going to copy and paste this. And I'll bring this thing on down. I'm going to put it right here. New equilibrium quantity to the right of the old one. I'm going to copy this. Okay. I'm going to paste it. I'm going to put it over here. Put one of them over here. And then I'm going to put another one up here. Okay. So now we got the shifted demand curve. And then last but not least, I'm going to scroll on up. I'm going to borrow this price here, put it over here. Okay, so oops, wrong one. Excuse me. Sorry. Okay. And there's new equilibrium price, nicely located. Okay, all righty. So we've got our new demand curve to the right of the old one. New equilibrium quantity is bigger than the old one. New equilibrium price is bigger than the old one. That's kind of a sad irony when you think about it. When consumers' income levels drop, the demand for inferior goods shifts right, and they become more expensive. Yikes. Class, during the last recession, Okay, the demand for new cars shifted left and the price of used cars dropped, relatively speaking, but the demand for late model used cars increased a ton and their prices went up and they held their value for a few years through the last recession. Okay, so let's deal with one more of these sample problems here and we'll wrap up for this video. Market for dental service. This is the example I talked about. All else being equal, that brand new technology is going to reduce service time for dental appointments. Class, dental appointments are a service. That's an important thing to remember, y'all. And so in the case of dental appointments here, time is literally money. The less time it takes to service a client, the less it costs the dentist to service the client. That means less time to service a client means more clients will be serviced, which means that dentists can make more money by servicing more clients as a result of it taking less time. The dentist is the producer and seller of the service, so this is a supply issue. And if they can supply more clients, i.e. supply double, or I should say service double the number of clients in a single day, that's a supply chain. Supply is shifting to the right. Remember, the increased direction is always right. Now notice it says new technology is reducing service time. Technology that is used by producers is called the technological base of the industry. So you can write changes in, we got to make sure we got that part, changes in the tech base of the industry. When technology improves, there's more production enabled, supply shifts to the right. Okay. Now let's go ahead and we're going to put the position of the new supply curve. We'll label it at the end here after we get the rest of our information. But right now I just want to have it here so we can see where we're going with this. I want y'all to notice here that the new supply curve right of the old one makes the new equilibrium diagonally down to the right, which means the new price is closer to zero. Price is dropping at equilibrium. The new quantity is to the right of the old one. It's farther from zero. The new quantity is larger. So P star drops, it decreases. Q star increases, it gets bigger, it rises. That's the summary information. Now, the last thing we're going to do here is we're going to put in our new labels. And so again, I'm just going to borrow from what we've already had before just to kind of save myself some time and save y'all some of the annoyance here. So again, just bear with me while I drag this stuff down. And again, you know, this is Word here and all of its peculiarities that come with it. We're fine. We're good. No worries here. Okay. One more page. Yep. And here we go. There is your new supply curve located. And again, you know, you're not using Word or Paint for this. You are using a pencil and a piece of paper, or a pen and a piece of paper as the case may be. So you don't have to deal with this stuff like I do. Okay, so let's go ahead and try to shrink this as much as we can. Okay, so it doesn't take as much space. Maybe we should just shrink the font as well. Yeah, there we go. Okay, all right, there we go. This is a little less unwieldy, let's say. Okay, and so there's your S prime and your S prime. Okay, alrighty. And then last but not least, let's locate the new equilibrium price and quantity. So again, we're going to locate it by putting in our vertical line down to the quantity axis and then putting in our horizontal line going over the dollar axis. And let's make these both royal blue. Again, I want y'all to use a blue pen or a blue pencil for locating the new supply or demand curve and the new equilibrium point, so that way they're easier to find. Okay, and so again, borrowing from our last graph to save us a little time, I'm going to put the Q prime where it belongs over here. And you guys are being real cheeky, Mr. Microsoft, aren't you? Mr. Bill Gates giving me a hard time while I'm trying to teach my students. Okay, the new equilibrium quantity goes here. Notice it's to the right of the old one. Okay, and then similarly, the new equilibrium price. New equilibrium price is below the old one. Okay, so there we are. We got our labels in place. What's missing? Oh yes, the arrows. We need to have the arrows. Okay. Oliver Queen would not be the green arrow without his arrows. Okay. But this here ain't the green arrow. This here is more like the blue Bowman. Okay. So got the arrow shifters there showing the change in equilibrium quantity and the change in the supply curve, how it moves to the right. And then, and then, no, this is not the Chinese food restaurant from Dude, Where's My Car? Okay, here we go. There, boom. All righty. So there we are. Okay, this here is your completed graph. Wait, am I missing something else? What am I missing here? Did I miss something on the last two graphs? Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. Yeah. Nobody called me out because this wasn't a live video. Okay, so I'm not blaming anybody for this. I take responsibility. Okay, I need to put what these are graphs of. Okay, we have to label the market. Let's not forget that, shall we? Here, this is the market for used cars. So let's make sure that that's visible there. And then let's get over here. This is not the market for used cars. This is the market for dental service. So let's make sure that says dental service as well. Okay. Yeah. Don't worry. I got this, y'all. There we go. Okay. Now we're done, more or less. Now we have got this stuff in a position to where we can see which graph these are and everything, and we've got all of our answers in place. Folks, obviously this will go a little faster here once you're working this with a pencil or a pen. My whole point in doing this here was I wanted to go through the process. I wanted to see you to see the mechanics of this here. That's the idea. But the thing is, a lot of what's going to help you as far as solving this problem is you got to learn to recognize these non-price determinants for demand. You got to recognize these non-price determinants for supply. Folks, in every single graph, I took a look at this thing. Hey, this technology deals with the producers. I knew it was supply for that reason. This is talking about consumers' income. Consumers are demand side. Marketing and research says what consumers like. Again, consumers, that's demand. Costs of something, costs refer to resource costs. That's businesses. Stuff like this, a lot of this is learning to recognize the language, because the language kind of dictates, is it a producer or consumer issue? It's a matter of perception. And it takes a little while to get this, but once you do, it's a lot easier. So I am going to go back over here. I'm going to first of all stop sharing the screen. Now let's go back over to the camera. Okay. I apologize that this took a little bit longer than it should have, but I wanted y'all to see the mechanics from start to finish, because it's easier to see once you go through the motions as opposed to boom, here's the finished graph all nice, neatly labeled. So this is the methodology you would use to work all of those practice problems, and how you'd work problem 5 for the macro students in the handwritten homework, problem 3 for the micro students. So I hope this was helpful, and I wish you all success. Micro students, 2 more videos are coming your way tomorrow, so be on the lookout for them. Macro, I've sent you all the videos I need for Unit 1. Have a nice afternoon. Everybody keep dry, and I'll see y'all soon.